Beer is one of the most widely consumed and earliest forms of alcoholic beverages. An interesting aspect of beer is that the drink was independently created across the world by various cultures. Due to governmental control of quality, one of the major requirements for this mass-produced beer was uniformity. This is when beer lost much of the flavor and uniqueness of independent brewers, and when a few large brands dominated the industry.
People found beer because they were hunter-gatherers and they would find barley and wheat wild and collected it and would eat it. And probably at some point somebody made a mistake and left some barley or wheat out. It sprouted, fermented, and turned into a liquid that they enjoyed drinking. And I think that was probably the start of beer. There's a theory that people stopped being hunter-gatherers and settled down to become farmers because they wanted to make beer.
Well, beer started out a cottage industry that was basically a product made by women. Of course, it had started in Egypt, but eventually as the world became more industrialized and travelers were looking for hotels, the wife often would make beer.
The way that beer is brewed, the technology of brewing beer has not changed really in the 8,000 or 10,000 years that beer has been brewed. What has changed is the equipment to brew beer.
One of the appealing elements of beer is that it pairs tremendously with foods, and due to the relatively low alcohol content, can be even more socially acceptable than wine.
Wine is often referred to as the best complement for food, and I think that's a bit haughty and misguided. Really, beer is a much better pairing for food. Beer is certainly more populist in its appeal, and also just the nature of beer being lighter in alcohol, being more effervescent, it allows a better interaction with food on the palate.
Well, beer is a lot easier to pair than wine. For sure, we have a wider breadth of flavor. Beer can be very light, very dark, sweet, chocolatey, sour, fruity, whereas wine pretty much you have, red, kind of bitter, or light white wine.
When it comes down to it, it is really the vast array of flavors that is helping to spur the increase in craft beers.
The advent of so many craft brewers, and right now I think we have as many small breweries as we've ever had in this nation. It's something like approaching 1,700 small breweries across the United States. It's a wonderful thing for consumers. They have a lot more choice flavors. What craft beer really brings to the table is just so much more in regards to flavor and quality. We're generally made with local ingredients. We often are using kind of interesting things like local honey or cherries. There's flavors that you just cannot find, mostly because for a big brewery it's not cost effective to be making a smoked beer or a dark porter. But for a craft brewer, we don't sell that much beer, and so we can play a little bit with flavor.
Craft brewers often share a kinship, as this is really an artisan trade, with each brewer displaying their own creativity into the beers they make. From home brewing to the most advanced companies, these really are people who enjoy the trade. That is not to say, however, that all beers are created equal.
Well, when somebody asks me about what beer they should buy, I generally ask them what kind of flavors do they like? What are they thinking of? What do they eat? Well, beer brewing for sure is an art form. I think it's a marriage of both art and science, and brewmasters spend many years learning their craft and really honing it to perfection. We always say there's a thing where, wineries, you get to harvest the grapes, taste them, blend your wine, think about it for a couple years and then release it. Beer is very immediate. Every step of every day has an impact on the flavors.